Crimson Peak features Mia Wasikowska as Edith Cushing, an aspiring writer and heiress who, following her father's not-so-mysterious murder, elopes and runs off with her new husband to his family's once proud estate, the titular Crimson Peak. But once there, she soon discovers that along with all the frightening ghosts haunting the property, Crimson Peak also hides a dark family secret. Greetings, Cinemaniacs, I'm Cinematico Magnifico of AmoralCrackpot.com, and welcome to the Nightly Chill. Directed and co-written by Guillermo del Toro, Crimson Peak is, like the best of his films, a haunting, beautiful, and somber gothic drama that fully embraces its genre trappings. The set design, the costume design, the sound design, the creature design, all this hits every last note with grace and perfection. The score knows when to swell to highlight whatever emotion del Toro's visuals are intended to elicit, be it heartache, dread, or anger, but it also knows when to retreat into the background. The movie is simply an audio-visual delight. That said, like his lesser offerings, Crimson Peak's story is as often as emotionally hollow as it is an unoriginal cliche. Simply put, Crimson Peak is a 10-minute children's campfire tale stretched into a 2-hour endeavor that constantly, explicitly, ham-fistedly spells out everything that is currently happening or will happen at some point later in the movie. There is never any mystery, never any questions or uncertainty, and even more surprising, hardly any conflict in the film. Because aside from the audio-visual experience, there isn't really any reason to watch Crimson Peak. It would be horrifically predictable even if the characters weren't telling us everything in plain, no uncertain terms, how they were feeling, how they were doing, or even plotting as they menacingly twirled their non-existent mustaches. We know immediately who kills Edith's father and why they did it. We're told at the very beginning of the film that the ghosts are set dressings rather than any important aspect of the film. And even worse, Edith has no motivation. She makes almost no choices of her own volition until late into the film. Her life is guided by everyone around her. She simply bobs along as the slow but steady plot carries her from one scene to the next. Crimson Peak is an insult to modern storytelling sensibilities. It's an insult to audiences, treating those who watch the movie like children, who must have everything explained to them in the simplest terms, regardless of how insipid everything ultimately proves to be. The dialogue is lazy fluff, delivered by anyone who isn't Hiddleston, as if they just rolled out of bed and were handed new pages to read. The plot, there isn't so much a story as there is a wafer-thin, paint-by-numbers plot, but the plot is, again, shallow and unoriginal. The characters are uninteresting and literally lazy, with nobody ever seeming motivated to do much of anything except follow some lofty dream that they have no talent for. The non-character of Edith herself is a glaring example of how ineffective the movie is in telling its own story. Edith is an aspiring author and the pampered daughter of a wealthy business mogul, and as a young girl she's haunted by the ghost of her deceased mother. Yet none of this ultimately matters to the story or even the plot. Her mother is dead even before the movie begins. The haunting is dispelled, fully drained of any dramatic weight or value as some scary prop, by Edith's own narration over this scene, which comforts the viewer with the knowledge that the movie's ghosts, despite their twisted, ominous appearance and presence, are simply metaphors. Now here's a good question to consider. Is something still a metaphor when the comparison is explicitly stated? Edith's desire to be a writer factors into nothing. Her ghosts mean nothing. Her relationship with her father, as pleasant as it may be, means nothing other than to explain why Tom Hiddleston's character would have any interest in her to begin with. And all of this serves as a constant reminder of the sad reality that Edith herself is less of a character and more of a bad plot device in someone else's story. A story that's much more interesting than anything that happened specifically to Edith. Now, had the film focused on the desperate attempts of a brother and sister attempting to reclaim their lost family fortune, and all the drama and heartache and painful choices that come packaged with that, Crimson Peak's story and characters would be as brilliant and compelling as the visuals. Unfortunately, all we really get are the visuals. The rest is Mia Wasikowska looking sad or bored, Tom Hiddleston doing his best to give any semblance of emotional weight or depth to the fluffy nonsense he has to say, or Hiddleston and Jessica Chastain channeling some British version of the cartoonishly evil and outdated Boris and Natasha. There's a moment in the movie where Edith must fight for her very life, but rather than a tense, captivating struggle, it's as if nobody wanted to work that day. There's no sense of urgency, no attempt to convince the audience that Edith or her assailant even care about the final results. And that sad, disinterested sequence sums up the experience that Crimson Peak offers to its audience. There's a beautiful looking and sounding idea on screen, but no real effort into making anyone care about it. If Guillermo del Toro can ever be said to have made a bad movie, it is most certainly Crimson Peak. The movie carries his trademark haunting visuals and themes, but lacks any substance or quality. It's boring, it's predictable, and generally speaking, it's also poorly acted. Worse, it doesn't come across like the work of a man who has spent the better part of his career proving just how talented he really is at his craft with every new film. Now, it could be said that Crimson Peak is a rare misstep in an exceptional filmography, but as true as that statement may be, it doesn't do anything but make this movie, and all its numerous issues, stand out all the more. And as a result, that means Crimson Peak is a no chill. That's gonna do it for this episode of the Nightly Chill. As always, this show is brought to you in part by our fans. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to subscribe, like, follow, and share. And if you'd like to find even more reviews, or perhaps learn how to support the show, please visit amoralcrackpot.com. Finally, The Nightly Chill is written, voiced, and produced by me, Steve TLVSoE. Agree or disagree with today's review? Let me know however you can. But until next time, y'all need to make like a tree and get out of here.